Hi, this is Misha, and Jay's here too. And we are doing our annual 4th of July video, and actually this year you're getting a twofer. In part 1, we have our top 7 once underappreciated and now, today, beloved firearms. And then in part 2, we're going to do our top 7 today underappreciated and future beloved guns. So stay tuned for that. Now we have them all on the table here, but we've mixed up the order, so you don't know what are our picks. We'll start with 7, which is the one that's had the least transition, I guess you would say, and walk up to number 1, which was maybe the lowest to the highest in appreciation over the years.
So kind of our thinking for this one was guns that may have been overlooked or not paid much attention to, or maybe even disregarded.
Yeah, scoffed at.
Scoffed at, maybe even, the most extreme examples, when they were commonly available. And now that they're less commonly available, as in no longer being manufactured or imported, the collectability or the desirability, maybe even the reputation, has increased on them. So we'll do that for some that are already gone at this point. Like, of course, you can get them on the secondhand market.
Yeah, I think all these on the table are pretty much gone now, maybe one or two. But
and then we will move on the next video, like you said, to the ones that are currently, we feel like are currently being overlooked.
And I will say this, if we were being totally objective, most of this table would just be like AKs, but we wanted to have a good smattering of old and new, so this is top 7.
We can just say AKs.
Yeah, we could just do one for AKs. So this one is kind of balancing different types and styles for more entertainment purposes.
Sure.
TLDR, it's what the hell we felt like today. So why don't you join us for this 4th and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, so this is going to be a subjective list, like we've said before, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're right, but it's subjective. And one thing I want to say before we get going is people, they don't, when stuff's available, either coming in surplus, even if it's 50 years old, or it's being made new, they just, when it's available, they just overlook it. They have this notion that, oh, I'll get it next week. I'll get it next year. And I've even told them, I can tell you what to get today that's going to be valuable tomorrow, and I'll say, but you won't listen. And they'll say, oh yeah, I will, I'll buy it. And they still don't.
Yeah. And
then 6 months later, they come back, hey, you still got that?
Nope.
Gone. So at number 7, we have what is an American classic today, the US M1917 so-called Enfield pattern. This one's made by Eddystone, but they were also made by Remington and Winchester during 1917 and 1918. In fact, more of these were used in World War I. More U.S. servicemen carried these than the Springfield 1903. More were made. It's more accurate in some sense. It definitely has a better rear sight. It's more durable. It holds 1 extra round, and it was completely underappreciated in its day and time. The U.S. military quickly declared these obsolete, even though they had tons that weren't even used, and collectors often passed these up. Springfields they wanted 1903, so hey, I've got a nice 1917. You got an 03? No? So when I bought this one, they were about $250, and Springfields were about $500. And today, the disparity is not quite as bad. In fact, they're almost equal. Mm-hmm. But it took years. And I think this is a really great gun, but people didn't.
Yeah, they're a neat thing, because you just don't associate American military bolt action with, the Enfield pattern very often. So.
And they're just well made. And the thing is, it's not just Enfield that has a Mauser bolt. This design that was made in Britain originally has a Mauser bolt and a Mauser magazine, but then it has a lot of the Enfield ergonomics, like the way the stock is, the safety. But they had that not made here stigma.
Yep.
And people, they heard of the 03, and they just, luckily today, these are finally appreciated, and honestly, they're really close in value, condition being the same as 1903, but it took a long time.
Yep. So the M1917 is our number 7. underappreciated gun.
And for our number 6, we have this critter here. The German Walther P38. Now, I think German guns have always kind of been appreciated in America. And this gun was, if not ahead of its time, on the cutting edge of technology in the 30s. It was a double single action. It had that decocker safety. This was one of the first you could carry with one in the pipe safely.
Yep.
It was made using a lot of stampings and stuff, so it was a modern style. And in fact, its system is so good that it's still in the Beretta 92 M9 today. About the only throwback is this heel-mounted release and the 8-round mag, but the rest of the gun is pretty forward-thinking. I think everyone agrees that Walther's a good brand. These are good pistols. Yet, given the choice, what would everyone go for?
The Luger.
Yep, the P08 Luger. A more finicky gun. Not as reliable.
Complicated.
Yeah, not as reliable. Not double action, but the Luger was the German gun.
Right.
Again, not this one, this is just one out of the store, but my first P38 I bought for $350, and at the same time the store had a Luger for $700. And that's kind of where it was. The people liked them, but everyone still went for the Luger.
Yeah.
Today, a nice P38 vet bringback will bring about what a nice Luger vet bringback will. They've finally gotten recognition, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I've shot, almost back to back the Luger and the P38, and I think the P38, the P38. I think the P38 is more shootable.
Oh, it definitely is. It's more reliable. It's got a loaded chamber indicator. It's got a lot of modern features.
Yeah.
And there's the P1, which has made them quite popular. Those have been available on the surplus market for years.
Yep.
But it always kind of baffled me that everyone would go with the Luger, and it's kind of overlooked. And to me, Luger is more of a World War I German gun. This, to me, is World War II Germany.
Yeah.
Right alongside the MP40 and MP44. This is modern. This really exemplifies the cutting edge tech that the Third Reich had.
Yep. So the Walther P38 is our number 6 underappreciated gun.
Yeah. And for number 5, we got another pistol here. You guys probably recognize this, but 15 years ago you probably wouldn't have. This is the Czechoslovakian VZ82. Oh, I do apologize. The 1917 is chambered for 30-06. The Walther P38 is 9mm Parabellum 9x19, and this is 9x18 PM, also known as 9mm Makarov. Really, what was a boost to this gun, I think, is when they were declared CNR. But for one thing, they didn't import these during the assault weapons ban when all the other Makarovs are coming in, because these are still in service, and they have a 12-round, what would have been considered a high-cap mag then. And the Czechs didn't want to go to the trouble of engineering a special 10-round mag. So it wasn't until 2005 these hit the shores, and no one really cared. I mean, everyone recognized CZ, but yeah, but then all of a sudden, a few years later, these became very popular as cheap carry guns.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when that happens, the cheap goes away. They went from being 150 to about 350 to 4 today, which is a pretty big increase for a Makarov.
Yeah.
But this is a very modern gun for the late 70s, early 80s. Like I said, we do have a double stack mag. We have not only a Browning style mag release, we have it's ambidextrous. You can press it from either side. We also have an ambidextrous safety. Of course, we have a double single action. I can do that. There we go. Trigger. We have relatively big combat sights. And we have polygonal rifling. So the Glock didn't do it first. This did. Yeah. So this has become real popular because it is CNR and because, I mean, it's a relatively small, light gun, and
Yeah.
you get...
How often do you see a double stack, either not only just a 9mm Makarov, but even something along the lines of a 380? Just very rare.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays with all the 9s, you see more, but, the 9mm NATO guns, but back then, no, you didn't. And 9x18 Makarov is a perfectly good self-defense round at 10, 15 feet, even up to maybe 50 if you're a decent shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no qualms with the caliber either, so.
I'm not a big 380 fan. I've always thought 9x18 Makarov gives you just that little bit more, and I find it a little more reliable and a little more pleasant to shoot, a little less snappy.
Yeah, I like 9mm Mac better than 380 as well.
Yeah, so these have become, there's definitely a big market for customizing and carrying these CCW, and I'm happy because when these first came in 2005, I called up my friend who had the gun shop. I'd eventually worked for him, and I said, hey, get me one of those VZ82s. He said, okay, what is it? And no one knew. And the first one they sent him, I called him, hey Jeff, did that come in today? Yeah, it came in, but I sent it back. Why? It was shot out. There was no rifling. I said, Jeff, it's polygonal. But here's the worst part. He had called the distributor, and they told him, oh, that's shot out, send it back. Even they didn't know.
Right. Oh, man.
So I had to wait another week to get another one. And that's after waiting 10 years under an assault weapons fee. So yeah, I think that's a fun number 5.
Number 5. Yeah. All right, let's go to number 4. I'll grab that one off the table.
Alrighty. And I just, I did a carbine.
Well, it's a little bit shorter, so it makes
sense. When it was on the couch. Hey, that was once a long rifle, so it counts. So our number 4 is a classic. You really can't do a video like this and not talk about the good old Mosin Nugget. Mosin Nugget.
This was my first CNR gun. This is probably a lot of people's first exposure to milsurp.
It was like my number 2, but yeah.
Of course, mine was a 9130. This being a...
That was a 9130. It's
a cut down.
Yeah, it's a cut down.
But yeah, so this is kind of an interesting take. Like all milsurp, you hear people talking a lot about getting these for $50, getting the old garbage rod for $50, and putting a Monte Carlo stock on it and taking it deer hunting, shooting it corrosive and never cleaning it and all that fun stuff.
I saw a guy once that was making them into lamps. He bought them for a lamp. Yeah.
So, and like a lot of milsurp things, the more people get a hold of them, the more people chop them up and butcher them, the more valuable and more rare the actual good condition ones that haven't been altered in the United States become.
And people's excuse was, oh, they made 20 million, they made 30 million. Yeah, they did, but how many survive today? For the most part, how many are in the USA? And like you said, how many are in good condition?
Right.
Still a large number, but the fact that those were coming in so regularly for 15 years, I think spoiled people.
Yeah.
I mean, they were $49.95 pretty easily, and now you can't really touch much under 400, really.
Right. Yeah, I paid, when I bought mine in 2009, I paid $125 for it, which was way overpaying because I could get them locally for about $80 or $90. I just couldn't find one locally at the time. They, since then, that same rifle was $300 on Gunbroker, and then they have since come up even more than that, like he said. So even nice condition ones are going for over $400. So something that people are snapping up for seemingly obscene prices, but the prices they're not making any more. The prices are just going to keep going up.
And here's the thing: people think, oh, why can't they? I had a guy just yesterday on one of our comments say, why doesn't Cougar just make SKSs? If they did, they'd be $1,000.
Right.
And if someone made a Mosin today, best case scenario would be $600.
Yeah.
It's just, when they're gone, they're gone. That's how surplus works.
Right.
And they're finally getting some love today, and especially variants and things. That's a 9159. Once upon a time, people didn't really pay attention. Now it's kind of a neat variant.
Yep. Yeah. So the Mosin-Nagant in general, and its variants and iterations.
I would even say it's ammo. That cheap
Sure.
ammo was around for so long. People go, well, where'd all that go? It was 5 cents a round. Yeah, that's surplus.
They bought it.
Yeah, I've got. I would say crates, but they're actually those little twine wrapped paper things out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was the Mosin train. Yeah, it went on for a long time, but it's pretty much over now, guys. And now guys are loving them.
So that is our number 4.
Yep.
Number 3.
And number 3, we'll get a little more modern. We kind of been a little more old-fashioned. What will it be? Another gun both Jay and I own. Couldn't really do this video and not mention this one. Yeah, there are other AKs that have really shot up in value. The Arsenal 104 FR, those have become real. But the Polish FB Radom Archer.
Yep.
My God, what a... In fact, this could easily be number 1 if we were being purely objective. I literally twisted people's arms to buy these at $9.99, and that was with the rail and the stock.
Yep. Including mine.
Including, I was going to say, including your... Remember the first time you shot yours?
Yeah,
with,
what was it? That was an ammo problem.
I know, but that was just people. They just... They knew that FB Radom was a good brand. They knew these guns were reliable. There's always been a mental block against 223 AKs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, can you picture this? There is an Archer. There was an Archer. I'm taking you back a few years. There's an Archer sitting on the shelf for $900. This is an FB Radom made, 100% FB Radom made. Or as close as you can get, I guess.
Well, it pretty much is, except trigger.
FB Radom AK, that's modern military production and spec, except for the full auto part, sitting on a shelf for $900 for almost a year collecting dust because nobody wants it.
Yep.
Like, to me, saying that now, it seems crazy. It seems crazy that, someone would pass that up for that.
The distributor loved me because I was buying these and no one else was. They'd get them in and I'd buy 6 or 7 at a time, but they weren't. That's why they only ended up bringing about 700 in. It wasn't because something happened. They weren't moving. It took them from 2012 to about 2015 to sell 700 nationally. Yeah,
and I think we attributed that, I think, a lot of the time to IO.
Yes,
which IO had a bad reputation then, almost from the get-go, and this was an IO import, not an IO made gun.
Nope.
And they didn't market them. They put no marketing behind it.
I told you, the one thing that drove me crazy, their website said 16-inch barrel.
Yeah.
This has an 18.
Never fixed it.
And I told them, I said, hey, your info's off. And I gave them a few things. I said, if you change these few, 1 or 2 characters, it will really... And they never did. They never bothered to.
So that's not 100% public fault, but it's a little bit public's fault.
Well, when you have people telling you need to get these, and they buy other things.
Right.
But yeah, it's that IO stigma. It just goes. I mean, the Vepr 1V was another victim of that.
Yep.
The only real Russian RPK we've had, and people didn't buy those either. But on top of that, not only is this thing rare, it's well built, very accurate for a long stroke AK piston system.
For sure.
And I think good looking. I mean, it's modern, but I love this gun. And won't be selling it. That said, oh my God, the prices.
Yes. Yeah, that one that was in the box, that went for, what was it, like $4,000 or $5,000 or something like that? It's crazy.
It seems like minimum now is $2,500 between friends, but yeah, they've gone for bumping $5K.
Yeah, which is nuts. But they're good rifles, just nobody wanted them when they could get them.
It kind of reminds me of the Valmet. That was another one that we could have easily put on the table.
Sure.
They only brought 200 of the tube stalkers in, not because they weren't good or something happened. They just took years to sell 200, so why bring more?
Right.
And now today they're $6,000. I mean, but yeah, we decided the Archer give us a nice modern gun. But this is one, that just, it's a great example of how that works.
Sure.
So yeah, a very, very firm number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
On to number 2. 2 left on the table.
I did that this morning. I'm good for a while. No surprises here. The Chinese Kalashnikov, the Type 56, or the AKS. It was imported under both names, and they brought over a ton of these. In fact, China says 1 million total, including postbands. This is just your typical military, fixed stock spiker, Polytech. How do you even start with one of these? I mean, good grief.
Yeah, we'll start with the perception then. I mean,
I would say, in people who liked military guns, they were kind of perceived as good quality beaters. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, in the 80s, military guns were kind of frowned upon. So they were kind of seen as no good for nothing except killing people. And, that was back in the time of hunting being the only... And that wasn't a political thing. That was just kind of public perception. So they won the market over by being so cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, $200.
Yeah.
One like this.
Right.
300 for a mil.
Sure.
And they brought over so many, and they sold, but they only sold because they were so cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you hear... I remember, I know for sure that people nowadays who were around then said that they were they were kind of perceived as almost low end, basically as junk.
Yeah, that was especially in the 90s. I remember that was really, I think in the 80s they were still a little bit underground, but by the 90s they had proliferated the market, and they were just like, oh, that cheap Chinese junk, get yourself a Remington or a Colt or whatever.
But nowadays, obviously there is a premium for collectors because they aren't being imported anymore.
Nope, they were sanctioned in '94.
And then on top of that, the collector prices are generally, some can be found for reasonable, I would say, but a lot of them have just exploded from a collector value perspective.
Well, and even more, the perception has gone from these are junk to this is God's own rifle. Right. It's perfect, it's accurate, it's reliable all day long. And that's really not true either. Yeah. The truth is in the middle ground.
Sure.
But in just talking about what's beloved today, my goodness, the Chinese AK is beloved, especially a spiker or one of the Bakelite models. Yeah. Even the Mag 90s go for $1,000.
Yeah, it seems like you almost can't even see a YouTube video about AKs without somebody bringing up a Chinese. What's this worth? And I have one and I love it or whatever. It's definitely.
Or what should I buy?
What should I buy? Yeah, the personality around these is.
They've really gone 180 degrees. Yeah, they're good guns, but they're not perfect, as our Chinese legend videos kind of pointed out. Yeah. And actually, I had another customer just last week who emailed me. I think after seeing that video, guess what? He had pretty much the exact same problems. Wow. He even took it to a gunsmith. I think he's going to sell it because it's just like us. Even if he fixes it, so there were lemons, which is, to be fair, that's that with 1 million guns you're going to get them. But you really can't do it. And of course,
that was number 2.
Yep. By the way, I always forget the calibers because we're doing more of this. This is 223, as I think we mentioned, 5.56 NATO, and this is the traditional 7.62. 39. Yep. And that Russian was in 300 Win Mag, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Mosin. Yeah. Obviously, number 1 is the only one left on the table we haven't picked up. The Armalite AR-180, colloquial known as the AR-18, which is the full auto version. Yeah. Objectively, this may not be number 1, but the perception sure seems to have put it there, and it's certainly gone up in price almost as much as the Chinese. This is a sterling one. There's also Howa and Costa Mesa, and those definitely go for big bucks. Even the sterlings are bringing a good bit now. Mm-hmm. Not many, were really made. About 12,000 were imported back in the 70s. This was kind of the alternative to the Colt SP1, which was the high-end gun, or the Ruger Mini 14, which was kind of the traditional bud gun. And this was the I really want an AR-15 but can't afford it gun, because these were cheap. This was made from stamped steel, much like an AK. The bores weren't chrome lined, and these were just about $400. So at a time when an AR was about $600, $650, it was a bit cheaper. Yeah. Still in 223. It does take its own mags. It has a lot of the same features, but it also has this pretty neat folding stock. And that's kind of where this has become popular. This was once kind of seen as relatively cheap, definitely beater project gun stuff. But as we look at it today, it had a lot of advanced features. We have a ergonomic pistol grip, as we would call it. We have that folding stock. We have an ambidextrous safety, which is something that's only appeared on ARs in recent times. We had a scope mount rail as standard. Back then, this was kind of pre-Picatinny, so it had its own proprietary, but the idea was there to have a mount for an optic. Of course, we have bolt hold open, we have a dust cover. But the most important thing in this gun's, the AR-18, AR-180's biggest contribution to the firearms world, is its short stroke gas piston system. People will realize it's a great system. It's easy, it's reliable, and so, as I've said multiple times, this became the velvet underground of the gun world. Everyone copied this gun, specifically the gas system, and to some extent the bolt group. And yeah, got your G36, your LA5, a lot of your modern high-end, high-fluting AR piston guns use this. The HK416 uses this piston.
Yeah, it's crazy how much the reverberations of this design have influenced as people have gotten away from the AR design in their new military guns. Like, it's interesting that they're going to this gun that really wasn't very, very successful.
No, it was
on
a
the
failure.
Commercial market, or even the military.
Oh, completely.
For that matter.
The military's tried it out in the 60s and didn't go with it. Now, to be fair, it had a few weak points, but so did the original AR-15. But they could have easily, but they were small things like the bolt hold open was too weak, or the stock catch was too weak. That's easy to fix. But it was kind of a slow burn, but in the 70s and really getting into the 80s, manufacturers took a look when they wanted to get away from direct impingement or long stroke, and they realized that was a great system. It just needed a little bit of tweaking. And so on the military realm, the design went from being very underappreciated to very inspirational.
Right. Yeah, for sure. If you're getting any modern type gun that is not an AR or an AK exactly, then you're probably going to end up in something that was greatly influenced by the AR-180.
Yep, and on the commercial market, that's starting to show. I mean, these guns, like I said, when they were new, they were just a few $100. You could get one used for as low as $200 back then. When I got mine, I paid $600 for it, and that seemed a little bit much, but it came with extra mags. And then they kind of went up to about 8 or 9 and stuck there, and then all of a sudden they shot over 1,000, and I ceased to be amazed at the prices, especially on the Costa Mesas and Howas. $2,000 up.
Now, interestingly, Brownells is doing what they're calling an AR-180 upper. Of course, I would like to see more of a retro-styled AR-180 out of them. That's a reasonable price. So, that's a possibility. That almost seems like more of a new design that was inspired by the AR-180.
Now, to be fair, Armalite, the Eagle Arms owned Armalite, did that AR-180B, which the upper was very similar. Now, the lower was different.
Right, yeah.
But the upper was almost identical. So, it almost be like just take the AR-180B upper and make a lower that maybe takes AR mags and AR trigger groups.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, that you hear a lot of flutter about these today. And to be fair, the guns themselves are not that great.
Yeah.
The triggers are meh. Accuracy is average.
Yeah, there were some failure points and stuff on. Then the stock hinges tend to break and all that.
And you can't remove the lower handguard. If you need to remove it, you have to remove the front sight base. Again, things.
Sure.
Yeah, so the guns aren't great, but they inspired so much, and they've gotten so much acclaim in both the military and civilian. We just thought it would be a fun and worthy #1. Plus, this is the 4th of July video. We got to have an American gun at #1.
Yeah, that's mostly it, is our very strong patriotism that influences our decisions.
Hey, people say that AR-15 stands for America's Rifle, so AR-18, that means it must be America's Rifle, but 3 times better.
Right.
Or something.
Three better. It's three better.
Plus 3 damage.
There you go. Yeah, it's plus three to shoot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to ranged attacks. Yeah. So,
alrighty.
Like I said, subjective list, just things that we had kind of talked about, what we thought belonged on the list, and obviously there are probably some guns that you would want to see on the list. But this was our list, so this is what we came up with.
And we tried to kind of spread it out. A couple of pistols, couple of bolt guns, couple of old 80s guns, and new.
Yeah, so feel free to post your own list in the comments below, or let us know what you think belonged on there. But
and fun fact, we created this list over eating fried chicken.
That's true.
Yes.
We did do that.
Yes.
And the next video that we do will be, like I said, guns that we currently think are underrated, that you can still, either are still being produced or imported. So be sure to check out that video once we upload it.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to comment below, and also if you could, we greatly appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe, and if you could check out the link to our Patreon page.
Yep, for sure.
This is Misha.
This is Jay.
And we'll catch you very soon, literally very soon, in part 2 next time.
And now I'm going to run across the kitchen and turn the camera off.
And fall over a cat.